back, and I wanted to throw a question to both of you about the impact of this entire saga. Whether it's not Jack Ladfalla, it's obviously much bigger than that. It's Weinstein. It's a snowball effect, as you mentioned earlier. It's the entire culture of the United States sort of getting wrapped up in this thing now, and there is a major impact from what's happening here locally. But is there a difference, first of all, with what happens in sort of this legislative process, where so much happens with relationships and relationship building, versus the rest of the country or the rest of sort of the other sectors of society?
So, well, I'll take that one, Ron.
Go ahead.
So one of the things, the distinctions that I would make when you're dealing in a political environment is the process is fast and furious. Things develop very quickly, and you have to respond very quickly. That's part of how successful lobbyists operate. So one of the challenges, I would say, within this particular industry is that during the day, in normal business hours, certain things are happening. Committees are hearing legislation, or they're on the floor of the Senate or House passing legislation. But things happen after hours very quickly as well. So much of this process contemplates being out at available after hours at night, whether that be by phone, by text message, perhaps. Maybe it's at a dinner. Maybe it's grabbing coffee or a drink with someone.
Much more social settings than
Exactly.
the business environment. You're not in the office all the time.
Correct. And you're not sitting necessarily behind a desk or, at a computer. You may be at a restaurant, or you may be at home and get a phone call at 11 p.m., but you got to take that phone call.
These things happen a little bit different than the business world, where sometimes the legislative session can be going on the House floor or on the Senate floor late into the evening, and you have these. Right. This does spill over into a much more social environment.
Correct.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
And so, Ron, there's obviously an impact. There's good and bad, I think, that's going to come from this. And then, what do you see as sort of some of the positives, I think, that are coming out?
I think it's mostly all good. This is an opportunity for the whole country to reset the dials on the culture of what's acceptable and what's not. And, it's not okay to grope a woman. It's not okay to engage in what you think is clever repartee when really a woman is a target of salacious comments about their appearance or their sex life. It's just not acceptable. And so I think men are now going to straighten themselves out. I think most men have searched their memories. Have I ever done something that would have caused a woman to feel badly? Did I go too far ever? I think it's a very, very healthy thing overall. It's going to be painful for those folks caught up in this, but in the end, again, as the father of daughters and someone who owns a company where 70% of the employees are women, I'm glad this is happening if the people who were wrong are outed and out. But people who are innocent have a right to not get caught up in that and to defend themselves.
Katie, are there challenges that are going to come from this for women or for men?
Yes, I think there will be, and I agree with Ron. I want to start by saying I agree that I think
overall
mostly this is very, very positive and a healthy discussion for everybody to have. One of the drawbacks that I'm anticipating that a lot of people will experience as this plays out are males being far more reluctant to have private meetings with females for fear of what might be perceived by doing that. Mm-hmm. So whether that's a good or a bad thing, I think remains to be seen. Sometimes it's important to have, a very direct and private conversation, dealing in, the legislature and dealing with legislators. And I don't know how this will impact a woman's ability to be able to do that, but it could. Mm-hmm. I could see how certain, very cautious male legislators might be more reluctant to have that kind of meeting.
But it might be a healthy thing in that regard, too, that a staff person be in there with a woman lobbyist meeting with a lawmaker. I would just say this, when Lauren Book was an advisor to the AAU after its sex scandal where its longtime president was accused of molesting 2 boys back in the 80s, but the allegation came out a few years ago, she and the task force she served on made recommendations that no adult coach or volunteer should be alone with a child, not just to protect the child, but to protect the adult from an accusation that might not be true. Mm-hmm. So I think we're heading in that direction. And overall, it's about the safety and well-being of every person in the process. and in the country to not be subjected to this kind of treatment.
Yeah. This is a tough topic. I thank you both very much for being on here and speaking frankly and candidly about it with me. We'll be right back after this.